Racist cop woman in court, and 3 minutes later him out. The tension was palpable as the judge entered the court, his eyes fixed on the accused. The defendant stood before him with a sly smile, holding a white police badge above his head. Suddenly, the door creaked open, and an agitated crowd flooded into the room, their faces twisted in anger and frustration. One of them stepped forward, brandishing a black pepper spray that left a trail of dented metal on the floor. The judge watched with growing horror as the cop reached out his hand to grab the offender's wrist, but the defendant deftly dodged it just moments before the man's arm whipped around and sent him flying towards the wall. The crowd erupted into chaos as they chased after the suspect, shouting obscenities and accusing each other of being involved. The scene cuts to a black woman walking down a deserted alleyway at night. She heard footsteps approaching behind her, but refused to turn her head, instead staying still until she saw movement out of sight on the side street. With a sudden burst of fear, she stumbled forward and tripped over an obstacle that sent her sprawling in the dirt. As she scrambled back up from the debris, she noticed a figure lurking just beyond her reach. It was the cop who had attacked her earlier, now standing with his arms crossed above his head, watching her intently. With growing determination, the woman turned around and faced him directly. "You," she said in a trembling voice. "You should be ashamed of yourself for what you did." The cop sneered at her, his eyes narrowing as he regarded her with cold malice. "I'm not afraid to defend myself when I need to," he snarled. Suddenly, there was a loud crash on the street outside, and the crowd scattered in all directions, leaving the woman alone once again. She stood frozen for what felt like an eternity before turning around to face the cop who had been stalking her. "You," she repeated, "you are nothing but a racist, a murderer, someone who's twisted my life away from me." The cop hesitated for just a moment, his expression unreadable as he looked at the woman with cold eyes. But then, in an unexpected twist of fate, he stumbled forward and lunged towards her. Before she could react, the cop delivered a swift punch to the gut, sending the woman sprawling on the ground. As he ran away from sight, the crowd erupted into cheers, their faces wild with excitement as they chased him down one street after another until eventually disappearing completely. In that moment, justice had been served, and at last, the racist cop was brought to justice for his crimes against a black woman in court. The scene cuts back to the alleyway where she lay on the ground, her body battered and bruised from the punch. She looked up at the camera with tears streaming down her face, unable to believe that this had happened. As the video ends, we see the judge delivering his verdict. The defendant has been found guilty of assault in court, and he will be sentenced to 3 years in prison. The woman watches as the crowd fades away into silence, a newfound sense of relief washing over her. She looks up at the camera once more, tears streaming down her face, but also determination in her eyes. In this gripping story, we see a racist cop who has committed an unimaginable act against a black woman and finds himself facing consequences that will haunt him for years to come. Through vivid action, sensory detail, and natural emotions, we are drawn into the heart of a complex legal case where justice is served in unexpected ways. Moral twist. The moral of this story is one of empathy, forgiveness, and equality. Just as the victim struggled against her attacker's violence, so too should we strive to understand the underlying reasons for his actions and work towards healing from their wounds. It's essential that we recognize the humanity behind every person, no matter their skin color or social status, and treat them with respect and compassion. In this tale of crime and justice, we witness a powerful reminder that even in the darkest moments, hope can find its way through adversity, leading to a brighter tomorrow for all. As the sun began to set over the small prison cell, a sense of dread settled upon the woman named Rachel. She had spent nearly 2 decades behind bars, counting down each day with an increasing sense of hopelessness and despair. The walls were made of cold stone, echoing her own thoughts back at her in whispered whispers as she gazed out at the dimly lit room. Rachel's mind raced with memories of her encounter with the racist cop who had committed a heinous act against her friend and fellow inmate, Maria. It was a night that would forever stay etched in her heart, the sound of her own voice echoing through the halls as she spoke to one of her lawyers about the injustice done to Maria. The lawyer listened intently as Rachel described how Maria had been unfairly targeted by the cop due to her race and gender, despite being an innocent victim. The cop had accused Maria of obstructing justice in a high-profile case that could have led to harsh penalties or even life imprisonment. Rachel knew from experience that this was not just about Maria's rights, but also about justice for all minorities. As the conversation continued, Rachel felt a deep sense of empathy wash over her, understanding the pain and trauma faced by Maria every day while she sat in solitary confinement. The cop had been driven by his own biases and prejudice, treating Maria like an enemy rather than a human being. Rachel knew that if justice were to be served for Maria, it would not come easily. The next morning, Rachel found herself sitting in her cell with the lawyer once again, discussing their plan of action. They wanted to present evidence that proved the cop's guilt and showed how he had acted out of racial bias. The lawyer explained that they would need to gather witness statements from Maria's friends and family, as well as other sources who could testify against the cop. Rachel felt a surge of excitement at the thought of bringing this case to light, but she knew it was not going to be easy. She had spent years in prison herself, having been sentenced for a crime that did not justify her imprisonment. Rachel's own experiences taught her about how difficult it can be to overcome systemic racism and injustice. As they worked tirelessly on their plan of action, Rachel couldn't shake the feeling of unease that lingered with every step they took. The cop was an important witness in this case, but he had a long history of mistreatment towards minorities. If he were not willing to face justice for what he did, it would be difficult to ensure that Maria's case went through. On one particularly dark night, Rachel lay awake in her cell, staring out the window at the cityscape below. She thought about all she had accomplished so far and wondered if they were making any progress towards bringing down the cop. As she drifted off into sleep, a soft knock on her door woke her up. The lawyer entered the room, looking tired but determined. "Rachel," he said, his voice filled with concern. "We've been working hard to gather evidence against the cop and have obtained several witnesses who can testify against him." Rachel's heart swelled with relief as she realized that they were taking a step towards justice for Maria. She knew that it would not be easy, but she was willing to do whatever it took to ensure that her friend's voice was heard. Over the next few weeks, Rachel and the lawyer worked tirelessly behind bars, gathering evidence against the cop and presenting their case in court. The trial was long and grueling, with arguments flying back and forth between the defense team and the prosecution. But each time Rachel saw Maria come out of her cell and take a seat at the table alongside the prosecutor, she felt a sense of pride knowing that they were making progress towards justice. Finally, after months of hard work, the trial came to an end. The jury found the cop guilty on all charges, but it was not enough for Rachel or Maria. They both knew that their lives would never be the same again, as they had been forever changed by the injustices committed against them. As the judge pronounced the verdict, Rachel couldn't help but feel a sense of relief wash over her. She had faced years of trauma and injustice in prison, but now she was finally getting closure on what had happened to Maria. The trial was not just about finding out who was guilty or innocent. It was also about healing from the pain that they both experienced. As Rachel sat at home with her family, reflecting on their journey so far, she knew that there would always be more work to do. But for now, she felt a sense of peace and acceptance knowing that justice had been served in unexpected ways. The moral of this story is one of empathy, forgiveness, and equality. It's important that we recognize the humanity behind every person, no matter their skin color or social status, and treat them with respect and compassion. Just as Maria struggled against her attacker's violence, Rachel too found a way to heal from the trauma she had experienced in prison. She learned that even when faced with injustice, hope can find its way through adversity, leading to a brighter tomorrow for all. The story of this racist cop serving justice after years in prison is a powerful reminder that we must always strive towards creating a world where everyone is treated equally and with respect. In the end, Rachel's journey was not just about getting revenge or seeking closure on what had happened to her friend. It was also about finding hope and healing from the pain she had experienced. The moral of this story teaches us that even in the darkest moments, we must never lose sight of our humanity and work towards creating a world where everyone can live with dignity and respect. As Rachel sat back down on her knees, gazing out at the vast expanse of the sky above, she felt grateful for all the people who had supported her along this journey. She knew that there would always be more challenges ahead, but she was ready to face them head-on, knowing that justice would prevail once again. /I'm_end. Rachel had always felt a sense of injustice in the world, stemming from her experiences as a black woman serving time for a crime she did not commit. As an adolescent growing up in poverty and surrounded by violence, Rachel knew firsthand how unfair it could be to live with constant fear and uncertainty. She spent her formative years navigating life's ups and downs, constantly questioning whether the world was truly fair or just. Despite these challenges, Rachel refused to give up hope for a better future. As she aged into adulthood, she took matters in her own hands by getting involved in community service programs and advocating for marginalized groups. It wasn't until she came to prison that Rachel discovered firsthand the harsh reality of injustice and inequality within our criminal justice system. While serving time at an overcrowded jail, Rachel found solace in reading books about social justice and attending workshops on restorative practices. She also worked alongside other inmates who had experienced similar hardships, forming a bond through shared experiences and mutual support. Through these moments, Rachel began to understand the root causes of violence, discrimination, and inequality that plagued our society. One particular incident stood out during her time in prison, where a fellow inmate was subjected to cruel mistreatment by another inmate due to his race. The victim's dignity had been violated, and he lay on death row with no hope of ever getting justice for what he had experienced. Rachel knew she couldn't simply stand back and watch as innocent lives were lost without doing anything. So, she took matters in her own hands and began organizing a campaign to raise awareness about the mistreatment faced by racial minorities within our criminal justice system. She reached out to community leaders, policymakers, and activists, gathering together signatures on petitions calling for reforms that would address systemic racism and ensure equal treatment of all individuals regardless of their race. Rachel's efforts didn't go unnoticed, and soon enough, her campaign gained traction. The city held a public forum where she spoke about the issue in depth, highlighting the need for changes to be made within the prison system. Despite facing pushback from some who believed that such reforms were too radical or would lead to further violence, Rachel remained determined. As news of her activism spread, other inmates began to join her fight against injustice. They formed a support group and shared their stories, offering hope and encouragement in times of despair. The group's efforts culminated in the release of an independent report from the prison system that exposed the systemic racism present within its institutions. This revelation sparked national attention and led to numerous reforms aimed at addressing issues such as racial bias, unequal sentencing, and lack of access to rehabilitation. The aftermath of Rachel's campaign was a turning point for her life. Her experiences had not only taught her about the harsh realities of prison, but also instilled in her a newfound sense of purpose and determination to make a difference. She knew that justice would never truly be served until we address these issues, not just within our criminal justice system, but throughout society as a whole. As Rachel continued on her journey towards healing and reuniting with her friend, she remained vigilant about the work still needed to be done. Despite facing numerous challenges along the way, including racism, discrimination, and violence, she refused to let these obstacles discourage her from pursuing her goal of creating a world where everyone is treated equally and respected. One day, Rachel was released back into society, having completed her sentence for the crime she had previously committed. As she walked down the street, surrounded by cheers and applause, she knew that justice had been served once again. The sun shining on her face, the birds chirping in harmony with nature, and the warm breeze blowing through her hair all combined to create a sense of joy and liberation. Rachel's journey was not just about getting revenge or seeking closure on what happened to her friend. It was also about finding hope and healing from the pain she had experienced. The moral of this story teaches us that even in the darkest moments, we must never lose sight of our humanity and work towards creating a world where everyone can live with dignity and respect. As Rachel sat back down on her knees, gazing out at the vast expanse of the sky above, she felt grateful for all the people who had supported her along this journey. She knew that there would always be more challenges ahead, but she was ready to face them head-on, knowing that justice would prevail once again. For Rachel, healing from prison and finding hope were not simply about getting revenge or seeking closure on a particular incident. It was about embracing the power of resilience, determination, and compassion towards those who have been marginalized and oppressed by society's systems and structures. She knew that true change only came when we stood together as one community, working tirelessly to create a world where everyone is treated with dignity and respect. As she looked out over the horizon, Rachel couldn't help but feel inspired by the unwavering spirit of justice and equality that had been instilled within her during her time in prison. She knew that this journey would never truly be complete until we achieve true parity and harmony for all individuals, regardless of their race or background. For as long as there is a darkness to our world, Rachel will remain vigilant and determined towards creating a brighter tomorrow, armed with hope, resilience, and the unwavering commitment to justice. Rachel sat in her cell, staring out the small window of her barack. She had been there for over 3 months now, serving time for a crime she knew was unjust and morally reprehensible. As an African-American woman who grew up in poverty and faced numerous obstacles on her path to success, Rachel always believed that justice was not just about finding guilty individuals, but also about addressing the systemic issues and injustices they perpetuated. Her prison life had been marked by struggle and adversity, from being subjected to harsh interrogations, physical abuse, and lack of basic necessities like food and water. But she refused to let these hardships define her or hold her back from seeking justice for what she believed was right. Rachel knew that the road ahead would be long and challenging, but she also had a burning desire to make amends and find redemption. As she sat there, lost in thought, she felt grateful for all of the people who had supported her along this journey. Her family, friends, and fellow inmates had been there for her every step of the way, offering words of encouragement, practical advice, and unwavering love. They may not have known how much they were helping or what impact their actions would make on Rachel's life, but they did know that she needed them. Rachel knew that true healing from prison was more than just getting revenge or seeking closure on a particular incident. It was about embracing the power of resilience, determination, and compassion towards those who have been marginalized and oppressed by society's systems and structures. She had faced countless challenges in her life, including racial discrimination, poverty, and violence, but she refused to let them define her. Rachel knew that true change only came when we stood together as one community, working tirelessly to create a world where everyone is treated with dignity and respect. As she looked out over the horizon, Rachel couldn't help but feel inspired by the unwavering spirit of justice and equality that had been instilled within her during her time in prison. She knew that this journey would never truly be complete until we achieved true parity and harmony for all individuals, regardless of their race or background. For as long as there is a darkness to our world, Rachel will remain vigilant and determined towards creating a brighter tomorrow, armed with hope, resilience, and the unwavering commitment to justice. Rachel had spent years struggling against her past and fighting for what was right in society's eyes. She knew that this journey would not be easy, but she was ready to face it head-on, knowing that justice would prevail once again. As she sat there, lost in thought, Rachel felt a sense of determination wash over her. She had always believed that true change comes from within and requires individuals to stand up for what they believe is right. And so, she decided to take the first step towards this journey by using every resource available to her. Firstly, Rachel reached out to local activists and community leaders who were fighting against systemic injustices in society. She talked about her experiences at prison and how it had affected her life, sharing stories of the people who had been marginalized and oppressed by the system. By connecting with these individuals, she was able to raise awareness about the issues facing our communities and gain support for their efforts. Next, Rachel took up a job as an advocate in civil rights organizations, working tirelessly on behalf of those affected by injustice. She spent countless hours researching cases, organizing protests, and speaking at rallies to bring attention to systemic inequalities and push for change. Rachel also used her platform to share her story with others through social media and interviews. By sharing her experiences and advocating for justice in a way that was accessible and relatable, she was able to connect with people from all walks of life who shared her passion for equality. As Rachel continued on this journey, she encountered countless challenges along the way. She faced pushback and opposition from those who believed in a different path or accused her of being naive or overly idealistic. But Rachel remained steadfast in her commitment to justice and refused to let fear or doubt hold her back. Despite these obstacles, Rachel's resilience never wavered. She knew that true success came not just from achieving external goals, but also from embracing the power within oneself. And so, she continued to push forward, using each moment as an opportunity for growth and learning. One of the most significant challenges Rachel faced was during a particularly heated trial in court. The evidence against her had been heavily flawed and manipulated by those who wanted her sentence harsher than necessary. Despite this, Rachel stood up for what she believed in with unwavering conviction and refused to let fear or doubt consume her. With determination and passion, Rachel presented her case before the judge, using vivid sensory detail to paint a picture of the events that had led up to the crime. She shared stories of the victims and their families, emphasizing the systemic injustices at play in our society's criminal justice system. Finally, After months of hard work and dedication, Rachel received a favorable ruling from the court. Her sentence was reduced by half, allowing her to be released early. The judge praised Rachel for her unwavering commitment to justice and recognized her courage and resilience in standing up for what she believed was right. Rachel felt a sense of elation at this moment, but also a deep sense of gratitude for all those who had supported her along the way. She knew that this victory would not have been possible without the help of countless individuals, including her family, friends, fellow inmates, and civil rights advocates. As she looked out over the horizon once again, Rachel couldn't shake off the feeling of determination that permeated through her being. She had faced challenges and obstacles before, but they had never deterred her from pursuing justice for those who were marginalized and oppressed in our society. For as long as there is a darkness to our world, Rachel will remain vigilant and determined towards creating a brighter tomorrow, armed with hope, resilience, and the unwavering commitment to justice. She knew that true change requires individuals like herself to stand up for what they believe is right, no matter how challenging or daunting the journey may be. And so, she continued on this journey, using her voice, her words, and her actions to inspire others to do the same. For in a world where justice is often denied or even suppressed, Rachel's story serves as a reminder that with perseverance, determination, and compassion, anything is possible, no matter how daunting the challenge may seem. /I'm_end. In the small town of Oakwood, nestled in the heart of rural America, there lived a woman named Rachel. She was not your average person. Instead, she had stood at the forefront of a movement that sought to break down barriers and bring about lasting change in her community. Rachel grew up working as an inmate on a correctional facility known for its brutal treatment of inmates, particularly those who were deemed at risk. As a child, Rachel was deeply affected by this experience. She saw firsthand how the system perpetuated discrimination against marginalized communities and left scars that would define her life forever. However, despite these challenges, Rachel refused to let them hold her back. As an adult, Rachel dedicated herself to using her voice and platform to speak out against injustice and promote equality for all. She recognized that change required not just individual action but also collective effort, which is why she began partnering with other civil rights advocates, fellow inmates, and community members to form a coalition called Oakwood Justice Movement. This group was dedicated to fighting discrimination and advocating for policies that would benefit marginalized communities. One of the first steps Rachel took in her efforts was by organizing a peaceful protest against a proposed prison expansion. The protesters wore bright yellow T-shirts with slogans like "No more chains," "No more discrimination," "Justice for all," and #End Discrimination Now. They gathered at the town square, carrying signs that read, "We are not prisoners. We are people," and chanted their demands. The response to Rachel's protest was overwhelming. The community rallied behind her, with many coming out in support of the cause. Local businesses donated supplies and offered free meals for the protesters. Community members shared information about the issue on social media, and schools held assemblies where students learned about the injustice faced by marginalized communities. However, not everyone welcomed Rachel's efforts with open arms. Some people accused her of being too radical or insensitive, while others argued that she was simply stirring up controversy without offering concrete solutions to address the underlying issues. Despite these criticisms, Rachel remained steadfast in her commitment to creating change. She knew that true progress required not just words but also action, and so she began working with local elected officials to advocate for policy changes that would benefit marginalized communities. One of the key pieces of legislation that Rachel lobbied for was an amendment to the criminal justice system that abolished mandatory minimum sentences for certain crimes, including those related to gang activity. This change not only addressed the root causes of crime, but also allowed for greater rehabilitation and reintegration into society for individuals who had been previously incarcerated. Another piece of legislation Rachel championed was a law requiring employers to provide equal pay and benefits to all employees regardless of their gender or race. She knew that these policies were essential in breaking down systemic barriers that prevented marginalized communities from accessing the same opportunities as more privileged groups. Over time, Rachel's efforts began to bear fruit. The criminal justice system reform bill passed state legislature, and local governments implemented similar reforms in other areas. These changes helped reduce racial disparities in sentencing, improved access to education for students of color, and provided economic benefits for marginalized communities. But the fight for change was far from over. There were still many individuals who continued to face discrimination and injustice every day, regardless of their background or status. Rachel knew that true progress required ongoing efforts to address these issues and ensure that all people had access to equal opportunities and protections under the law. So, in 2018, Rachel stepped up her game once again by leading a campaign to raise awareness about the issue of voting rights for marginalized communities. She organized events at community centers and churches, where she educated attendees on the importance of casting their ballots and ensuring that their voices were heard. The response to Rachel's efforts was overwhelming. People from all walks of life came together to support her cause, with many coming out in favor of increased voter turnout and greater representation for marginalized communities. Local politicians pledged to work towards implementing new voting rights laws, and community organizations launched programs to provide education on the importance of voting. But despite these victories, Rachel knew that there were still challenges ahead. Voter suppression remained a prevalent issue in some parts of the country, with many individuals being denied access to polling stations or facing barriers during registration efforts. Furthermore, her fight for racial equality was not without its critics who argued that it was divisive and unnecessary. Rachel understood that true progress required acknowledging these challenges while continuing to push forward towards creating a more just society. She knew that she could no longer operate in the shadows, but had to be visible and vocal about the issues facing marginalized communities. In 2019, Rachel co-founded Black Vote Action, an organization dedicated to mobilizing African American voters to ensure their voices were heard on the presidential election ballot. The group worked tirelessly to educate and encourage African Americans across the country to register to vote, attend polling stations, and support candidates who prioritized issues such as criminal justice reform, voting rights, and racial equality. As 2020 approached, Rachel knew that her work was not over yet. With the COVID-19 pandemic disrupting traditional election activities, many people were hesitant to participate in this year's presidential election. But Rachel remained determined to make a difference, even during these challenging times. In November of 2020, the Black Vote Action organization held virtual events and rallies across the country, where participants gathered together to discuss the importance of voting and rally for candidates who shared their vision for a more equitable future. The response was overwhelming. People from all walks of life came out in support of Rachel's efforts, with many volunteering their time and resources to help organize events, spread awareness, and encourage others to vote this election. The number of registered voters increased by 10% compared to the previous year, and African American voters cast ballots on a record high level. In the end, Rachel's unwavering commitment to justice, advocacy, and community engagement helped bring about significant change in her hometown of Oakwood. Her story serves as an inspiration for those who seek to fight against discrimination and inequality every day, reminding us that with determination, resilience, and compassion, anything is possible when we work together towards a brighter tomorrow. Rachel's heart raced as she stood before the crowded virtual room, her camera lens capturing every detail of the scene unfolding. The air was thick with anticipation, and the energy in the crowd felt palpable. It was election day for 2021, a time when many people were hesitant to participate due to the COVID-19 pandemic's impact on traditional voting processes. Yet Rachel remained steadfast, determined to make a difference, even during this challenging season. With her Black Vote Action organization, BVA, in charge of organizing virtual events and rallies across the country, Rachel knew that she had an opportunity to mobilize millions of Americans who shared their vision for a more equitable future. The BVA's mission was clear: to inspire African American voters to exercise their right to vote by advocating for candidates who represented their interests, promoting fair representation in government, and fostering social justice. On November 3, 2020, Rachel prepared her virtual platform with passion and determination. She hosted a series of webinars, panel discussions, and Q&A sessions where participants gathered together to discuss the importance of voting and rally for candidates who shared her vision. The event featured prominent figures in politics, civil rights activists, and community leaders from around the country. The response was overwhelming. People from all walks of life came out in support of Rachel's efforts, with many volunteering their time and resources to help organize events, spread awareness, and encourage others to vote this election. From seasoned political strategists to young organizers at local schools, everyone had a role to play in shaping the outcome. The BVA began by highlighting the historical roots of African American voting rights and the challenges faced during times when it was difficult for people of color to exercise their right to participate. They shared stories of voter suppression tactics employed against Black voters across various states and emphasized that every vote counts, no matter how small or insignificant they may seem. As the event progressed, Rachel invited candidates who shared her vision for a more just society to share their platforms on stage. She highlighted those who prioritized issues such as healthcare access, criminal justice reform, and education equity during this tumultuous time. The candidates' speeches were powerful, with each one resonating deeply with attendees who had been impacted by the pandemic's toll. One of Rachel's most memorable speakers was a civil rights attorney named Johnny Williams. In his speech, he spoke about the systemic barriers that prevent Black people from exercising their right to vote, and how it is crucial for our democracy to be inclusive and equitable. He emphasized the importance of voting in local elections so that candidates can understand the needs of their constituents firsthand and work towards policies that address issues affecting communities. As the event continued, Rachel also highlighted the need for political representation at all levels. She encouraged attendees to vote not only for those who support progressive causes, but also for individuals with diverse backgrounds and perspectives who could help bring a fresh perspective to elected officials' decisions. The BVA emphasized the importance of electing candidates who are committed to fighting against racism, discrimination, and inequality. The event culminated in an inspiring call to action, where Rachel encouraged attendees to sign up for their local election runoff or early voting deadlines. She reminded them that every vote counts and urged them not to let fear hold them back from exercising the right they have been granted. As the virtual audience watched, the BVA's efforts started paying off. The number of registered voters increased by 10% compared to the previous year, and African American voters cast ballots on a record-high level. This significant surge in voter turnout was a testament to Rachel's unwavering commitment to justice, advocacy, and community engagement. In the end, Rachel's story served as an inspiration for those who seek to fight against discrimination and inequality every day, reminding us that with determination, resilience, and compassion, anything is possible when we work together towards a brighter tomorrow. The BVA's virtual events and rallies not only helped mobilize voters, but also sent a powerful message of hope in the face of adversity. For Rachel, this election was more than just an opportunity to cast her vote. It was about creating change in her hometown and beyond. With the support of her community, she worked tirelessly to organize events, spread awareness, and encourage others to exercise their right to participate in a democratic process that valued diversity and represented all voices. As Rachel stood before the virtual room once again, she knew that there were many challenges ahead. But with determination, resilience, and compassion, anything was possible when we worked together towards a brighter tomorrow. She had proven time and time again that change is not only achievable, but also necessary for building a more equitable and just society for all Americans, regardless of their race or background. Rachel's unwavering commitment to justice, advocacy, and community engagement was a beacon of hope for those seeking change. A trailblazer in her field, Rachel dedicated herself to addressing the systemic issues that marginalized communities face, particularly those facing discrimination based on race, gender, sexuality, or other factors. Born into an immigrant family with humble beginnings, Rachel grew up surrounded by adversity and struggled against many obstacles as a young girl. Despite these challenges, she remained determined to make a difference in her community and fight for justice, often using her platform to raise awareness about the issues that affected her peers. As a teenager, she worked tirelessly at local organizations, advocating for marginalized communities and organizing rallies and events to mobilize voters. One of Rachel's most significant achievements was when she became involved with the Board of Values, BVA, an organization dedicated to promoting social justice in local politics. The BVA organized virtual events and rallies across the United States that invited community members to participate in a democratic process that valued diversity and represented all voices. These events provided a platform for people from different backgrounds, races, and ethnicities to come together and discuss issues affecting their communities. For Rachel, this election was not just about casting her vote. It was about creating change in her hometown and beyond. With the support of her community, she worked tirelessly to organize events, spread awareness, and encourage others to exercise their right to participate in a democratic process that valued diversity and represented all voices. She knew firsthand how important it was for communities to have a voice at the table when making decisions about public policy. Rachel's passion for justice began early on in her life, as she witnessed firsthand the struggles of marginalized individuals and families. From childhood, she saw herself becoming an advocate not just for those who were affected by discrimination, but also for those who were fighting against it themselves. She knew that change was necessary to create a more equitable society where everyone had access to equal opportunities and resources. As Rachel approached her senior year in high school, she began working with the BVA again, organizing events and rallies to raise awareness about issues affecting marginalized communities. With her leadership skills honed from previous experience, she quickly gained respect within the organization for dedication and commitment to social justice. In 2018, during the presidential election cycle, Rachel took on a new role as the BVA's national chairperson. As the lead organizer of their virtual events and rallies, Rachel worked tirelessly to ensure that these events were well-coordinated, engaging, and impactful. She spent countless hours coordinating with volunteers, securing sponsorships, and managing logistics to make sure that all aspects of the event ran smoothly. The BVA's virtual events not only helped mobilize voters, but also sent a powerful message of hope in the face of adversity. From virtual protests to live-stream town hall meetings, Rachel was at the forefront of this movement, encouraging people from around the country to participate and make their voices heard on issues that mattered most to them. As the election campaign wore down, Rachel's commitment continued to grow stronger. She became more vocal about her beliefs in social justice, using her platform to educate others about the importance of voting and advocating for policies that would promote equality and diversity. On November 3rd, Rachel watched as she cast her vote for a candidate who shared their values of inclusivity and compassion. Although it was not an easy decision, she knew that this election was not just about electing one person. It was about creating change in the hearts and minds of those around her. As the results were announced, Rachel couldn't help but feel a sense of pride knowing that her efforts had paid off. The BVA's virtual events had sparked a wave of activism across the country, inspiring people to take action against discrimination and inequality. Her message was clear: anything is possible when we work together towards a brighter tomorrow. For Rachel, this election was more than just an opportunity to cast her vote. It was about creating change in her hometown and beyond. With the support of her community, she worked tirelessly to organize events, spread awareness, and encourage others to exercise their right to participate in a democratic process that valued diversity and represented all voices. She had proven time and time again that change is not only achievable, but also necessary for building a more equitable and just society for all Americans, regardless of their RAC or background. In the end, Rachel's unwavering commitment to justice, advocacy, and community engagement served as an inspiration for those who seek to fight against discrimination and inequality every day. Her story reminded us that with determination, resilience, and compassion, anything is possible when we work together towards a brighter tomorrow. As she looked out at the world around her, Rachel knew that change was not just a matter of politics. It was about creating a better future for all Americans, one where everyone has access to equal opportunities and resources. For those who seek justice in their communities, Rachel's story serves as a reminder. Anything is possible when we stand together towards a brighter tomorrow. It was an opportunity for Rachel to cast her vote, and it held a weighty significance in her hometown. She had long been aware of the challenges faced by marginalized communities across America, particularly those facing discrimination and inequality based on race or background. With growing evidence that systemic barriers were preventing many from accessing equal opportunities and resources, Rachel felt compelled to take action. Working tirelessly over the course of several months, Rachel organized a series of events aimed at raising awareness about these issues and encouraging others to exercise their right to participate in a democratic process that valued diversity and represented all voices. She met with local leaders, community members, and activists who shared her passion for creating change and rallied around the cause. The first event was an open mic night, where Rachel invited aspiring writers from marginalized communities to showcase their talents and share their stories of discrimination and injustice. The room was filled with diverse voices, each bringing a unique perspective on the issues at hand. As the crowd listened intently, Rachel spoke about her own experiences growing up in a predominantly white neighborhood and how those barriers had impacted her life. Today, I stand before you not just as an individual, but also as someone who has seen firsthand the consequences of systemic discrimination, she said. As your community's voice, we must continue to fight for justice and equality for all Americans, regardless of their race or background. The following event was a town hall meeting, where Rachel invited local government officials to discuss ways in which they could address these issues within their communities. She shared stories about successful initiatives that had been implemented in other cities and highlighted the need for more equitable policies at all levels. Change is not just an abstract concept. It's real and tangible, she said. We must work together as a community to dismantle the systemic barriers that prevent marginalized individuals from accessing equal opportunities. We must prioritize investments in education, employment, housing, healthcare, and other vital resources for everyone. One of the key themes at these events was the importance of grassroots organizing and collective action. Rachel encouraged attendees to get involved by volunteering with local organizations, attending protests or rallies, and engaging with elected officials through letters to the editor campaigns. As word spread about her efforts, Rachel's message resonated with a growing number of people across America. She received messages from individuals who were inspired by their experiences and committed to making a difference in their own communities. Through these conversations, she developed a more comprehensive understanding of the challenges faced by marginalized Americans and began to craft a plan for how they could work together towards a brighter tomorrow. Over time, Rachel's efforts led to several tangible changes within her hometown. She helped organize a community garden that provided fresh produce to local food banks, worked with organizations to provide job training and employment opportunities for marginalized individuals, and advocated for increased funding for public schools in predominantly minority neighborhoods. One of the most significant accomplishments was the passage of legislation that prohibited discrimination based on race or color at all levels of government. This policy not only addressed the systemic barriers faced by marginalized communities, but also served as a model for other cities to follow. As Rachel looked out over her hometown, she can that change had taken place, and it would continue to unfold. With each passing day, more individuals from diverse backgrounds came together to fight against discrimination and inequality, united in their belief that anything is possible when we work towards a brighter tomorrow. For those who seek justice in their communities, Rachel's story serves as a reminder of the power of collective action, resilience, and compassion. Through her unwavering commitment to change, she inspired others to join forces and fight against discrimination and inequality every day. As they looked back on the progress made so far, Rachel knew that it would take time and effort, but was confident in their ability to create a more equitable and just society for all Americans. In conclusion, casting her vote was an opportunity for Rachel to make a difference in her hometown and beyond. Through hard work, community organizing, and advocacy, she worked tirelessly to raise awareness about systemic barriers faced by marginalized communities and encouraged others to exercise their right to participate in a democratic process that valued diversity and represented all voices. As she looked out at the world around her, Rachel knew that change was not just a matter of politics. It was about creating a better future for all Americans, one where everyone has access to equal opportunities and resources. For those who seek justice in their communities, Rachel's story serves as a reminder. Anything is possible when we stand together towards a brighter tomorrow. Once upon a time, in the bustling city of New York City, there lived a woman named Rachel. She was not just any ordinary citizen. She had dedicated her life to fighting for justice and equality, particularly in communities that were often overlooked or marginalized by society. Rachel's story began with a vivid scene that left an indelible mark on her heart. the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina. The hurricane had destroyed much of New York City, leaving residents homeless, hungry, and without basic necessities like water and shelter. Rachel was among those who had lost everything they loved during this traumatic event. She watched as fellow community members struggled to rebuild their homes, while she struggled with her own emotional scars from the trauma that she had experienced. Despite the overwhelming adversity, Rachel refused to let despair defeat her. Instead, she turned her pain into purpose and began organizing protests, rallies, and campaigns aimed at raising awareness about the systemic injustices faced by marginalized communities in New York City and beyond. She believed that it was essential for individuals like herself, who had experienced firsthand the effects of poverty, discrimination, and inequality, to use their voice to advocate for change. One day, Rachel decided to take her activism one step further by running for public office. Despite facing numerous obstacles and setbacks along the way, she persevered, determined to make a difference in the lives of others through politics. She won an election as the first Black candidate to serve on the New York of Education. As the newly elected member, Rachel was faced with several challenges that threatened to derail her efforts. The education system in New York City had long been marked by racial segregation and unequal access to resources for marginalized students. Many schools were located in predominantly minority neighborhoods, making it difficult for these communities to obtain quality educational opportunities. Rachel knew that she couldn't solve the problems alone. It would require collaboration from community members across different sectors, including educators, policymakers, advocacy groups, and local residents. She organized meetings with teachers, parents, students, and community leaders to discuss ways to address these issues head-on. One of Rachel's most significant initiatives was a proposal that aimed at creating more equitable learning environments for all students regardless of their race or socioeconomic status. The plan included implementing bilingual education programs, providing additional resources such as technology devices and enrichment activities, and establishing mentoring programs that connected teachers with students who needed extra support. Rachel's efforts didn't go unnoticed by her colleagues on the board. They were skeptical at first, but she remained committed to her vision of a fairer education system for all New York City residents. She organized workshops and training sessions to educate educators about these changes, worked tirelessly to gather feedback from students, parents, and community members, and secured backing from influential leaders in the city's political sphere. As word spread about Rachel's groundbreaking proposal, the reaction was mixed. Some teachers were skeptical that it would be feasible or effective. Others believed that it would be a violation of their teaching practices. But Rachel remained steadfast in her commitment to creating change. She met with educators and parents who shared their concerns, listened intently to their experiences, and worked collaboratively with them to revise the proposal. She also reached out to school boards across New York City, explaining the importance of these changes for students' academic success and well-being. After months of hard work and dedication, Rachel's proposals were finally approved by both the board and city government. The implementation process was challenging at times, but it ultimately led to a significant improvement in education outcomes for marginalized communities in New York City. The new policy encouraged schools to integrate bilingual instruction into their curriculum, provided additional resources such as laptops and tablets, and established mentorship programs that connected students with experienced teachers from diverse backgrounds. These changes not only improved the quality of education, but also helped to break down barriers between different racial groups. One turning point in Rachel's journey came when she organized a series of town hall meetings for parents, educators, and community members to discuss the impact of these policies on their children's lives. The event was attended by thousands of people from all walks of life, including school administrators, policymakers, advocates, and local residents. During one such meeting, Rachel shared her personal experiences with racism as a child growing up in New York City, highlighting how systemic inequalities had shaped her worldview and influenced the choices she made throughout her life. She also spoke about the importance of providing equal opportunities for marginalized students, emphasizing that it was not just an issue related to education, but one affecting everyone's lives. The audience erupted into thunderous applause as Rachel finished her speech, and several people approached her after the meeting, sharing their own stories of racism and inequality they had experienced. They thanked her for bringing attention to these issues and praised her leadership in fighting for a more equitable future. As the dust settled on that day, Rachel's efforts were recognized with accolades from local organizations, educators, parents, and community members. She was elected as a member of the New York, where she continued to push for policies aimed at promoting social justice, reducing inequality, and improving education outcomes in underserved communities. Rachel's journey became a shining example of how individuals like her can use their voice and influence to create change that affects everyone, regardless of race or socioeconomic status. Her unwavering commitment to equality and compassion earned her respect and admiration from those around her, including fellow members of the New York City community who had witnessed firsthand the transformative power of collective action. As she looked out at the world today, Rachel knew that justice was not just a matter of politics, but one that required ongoing efforts and dedication. She continued to push for change in various aspects of society, from advocating for policy reforms to organizing protests against discrimination and inequality. Her story serves as an inspiration to all those who seek to create a more equitable future for themselves and their communities. For those who seek justice in their neighborhoods, Rachel's tale reminds them that anything is possible when we stand together towards a brighter tomorrow. By working hard, using our voice, and standing up against systemic barriers faced by marginalized communities, we can make a difference in the world and create a better future for all Americans. One where everyone has access to equal opportunities and resources. In conclusion, casting her vote was an opportunity for Rachel to make a difference in her hometown and beyond. Through hard work, community organizing, and advocacy, she worked tirelessly to raise awareness about systemic barriers faced by marginalized communities and encouraged others to exercise their right to participate in a democratic process that valued diversity and represented all voices. For those who seek justice in their communities, Rachel's story serves as a reminder. Anything is possible when we stand together towards a brighter tomorrow. By working hard, using our voice, and standing up against systemic barriers faced by marginalized communities, we can make a difference in the world and create a better future for all Americans. One where everyone has access to equal opportunities and resources. Rachel's legacy lives on not just through her accomplishments as an elected official, but also through the countless individuals she inspired throughout New York City and beyond. Her unwavering commitment to justice, resilience, and compassion will continue to resonate with generations of people who seek to create a more equitable world for all Americans. One where everyone has access to equal opportunities and resources. And Rachel had always been drawn to the power of community and its ability to bring people together towards a common goal. Born in New York City, she grew up surrounded by diverse cultures, traditions, and perspectives that shaped her worldview from an early age. As a child, Rachel noticed that many young people faced barriers when it came to accessing equal opportunities and resources. Whether it was due to economic inequality, systemic discrimination, or lack of access to education and job training, they were often denied the chance to build their lives on solid foundations. This sparked her desire to make a difference in her hometown and beyond. In high school, Rachel began organizing community events and initiatives that aimed at addressing these issues head-on. She organized rallies, workshops, and educational sessions to raise awareness about the challenges faced by marginalized communities and encourage people to take action towards creating change. Through her efforts, she was able to build a strong network of local activists, students, and business leaders who shared her vision for a more just society. As Rachel pursued higher education at an elite university in New York City, she continued to use her platform as an elected official to advocate for systemic reform. She served on the city's Board of Education, where she worked closely with schools across the boroughs to address issues such as diversity and inclusion, teacher training, and student achievement. One particularly significant project that Rachel spearheaded was the We Are Yorkers campaign, which aimed at celebrating the contributions and stories of immigrants in New York City. Through workshops, events, and online resources, this initiative provided a space for immigrant students to share their experiences and perspectives, helping to bridge the gap between different communities and promoting understanding and empathy. Rachel's efforts paid off when she was elected as one of the city's youngest mayors in 2017 at the age of 34. As mayor, Rachel continued to prioritize equity and inclusion by launching several initiatives aimed at addressing systemic barriers faced by marginalized populations. 1. Affordable housing. One of her first major priorities was ensuring that all New York City residents have access to safe and affordable housing. This included enacting rent control policies, investing in public construction programs to build new housing units, and providing financial assistance for low-income families. 2. Education equity. Rachel recognized the importance of providing equal opportunities for students from diverse backgrounds, especially those who faced systemic barriers such as poverty, inequality, or disabilities. She launched several initiatives aimed at improving teacher recruitment and retention, expanding early childhood education programs, and investing in schools that served underperforming districts. 3. Community safety. As a safety-conscious mayor, Rachel prioritized ensuring the well-being of all New York City residents by addressing gun violence and gang activity. This involved launching targeted campaigns to reduce gun-related deaths, implementing community policing strategies, and working with local law enforcement agencies to prevent crimes from occurring in high-risk areas. 4. Environmental justice. In her role as mayor, Rachel recognized the interconnectedness between environmental factors and social justice issues, particularly those related to climate change and pollution. She launched several initiatives aimed at addressing these challenges, including investing in renewable energy projects, promoting green infrastructure development, and implementing policies that incentivized businesses and residents to reduce their carbon footprint. 5. LGBTQ+ rights. Rachel was a vocal advocate for the rights of marginalized communities, especially within the LGBTQ+ community. This included supporting inclusive policies and initiatives aimed at addressing discrimination based on sexual orientation or gender identity, providing access to healthcare services, and promoting safe spaces where people can express themselves freely without fear of judgment. Throughout her tenure as mayor, Rachel's commitment to equity and inclusion was evident in numerous programs and projects that served the needs of all New York City residents. She worked tirelessly to bridge gaps between different communities, build stronger relationships with community organizations, and foster a sense of belonging for every person who lived in her city. One particular project that stood out as a success was the New York Cares initiative, which aimed at providing emergency assistance to low-income families during times of crisis. This program provided food, shelter, hygiene supplies, and other necessities through partnerships with local organizations such as soup kitchens, shelters, and community centers. Rachel's commitment to social justice also extended beyond her role as mayor. She was an active member of the New York, serving on various committees that focused on issues such as affordable housing, transportation, education, and environmental protection. Her expertise in these areas helped shape policy decisions and initiatives that directly impacted the lives of millions of New Yorkers. As Rachel prepared to leave office after 4 years in office, she reflected on her journey thus far and felt grateful for the opportunities and experiences it had given her. She knew that there was still much work to be done, but she also felt confident in the strength and resilience of the communities she served as mayor. In conclusion, casting her vote for a progressive candidate was an opportunity for Rachel to make a difference in her hometown and beyond by advocating for systemic reforms, promoting equity and inclusion, and addressing issues facing marginalized populations. Through hard work, community organizing, and advocacy, she worked tirelessly to raise awareness about the challenges faced by these communities and encouraged others to exercise their right to participate in a democratic process that valued diversity and represented all voices. Rachel's legacy lives on not just through her accomplishments as an elected official, but also through the countless individuals she inspired throughout New York City and beyond. Her unwavering commitment to justice, resilience, and compassion will continue to resonate with generations of people who seek to create a more equitable world for all Americans. One where everyone has access to equal opportunities and resources. Rachel's story serves as a reminder that anything is possible when we stand together towards a brighter tomorrow. By working hard, using our voice, and standing up against systemic barriers faced by marginalized communities, we can make a difference in the world and create a better future for all Americans. One where everyone has access to equal opportunities and resources. In conclusion, Rachel's story of community organizing, advocacy, and leadership is a testament to the power of perseverance, resilience, and determination. She showed that it's not just about making policy changes. It's also about using our collective voice and standing up for what matters most, creating a better world where every individual has equal access to opportunity and resources, regardless of their background or circumstances. As we celebrate Rachel's legacy, let us remember her words. We are all New Yorkers, reminding us that anyone can be part of the solution if they work together towards a common goal. Let us honor her courage, compassion, and unwavering commitment to justice by striving for equality, fostering inclusivity, and addressing systemic barriers in our communities today and beyond. Title: The Unifying Power of Community in the Fight for EQ. UAL Opportunities. In an era where America is poised to become a beacon of hope and opportunity, Rachel's story stands as a powerful reminder that anything can happen when we come together towards a brighter tomorrow. Born into a family with roots deeply entrenched in New York City, she grew up surrounded by the resilience, determination, and unwavering spirit of her community. This diverse group of individuals from different backgrounds and walks of life played a pivotal role in shaping Rachel's worldview and inspiring her to take action against systemic barriers faced by marginalized communities. Rachel's journey began as a young activist when she became aware of the persistent lack of access to equal opportunities for underprivileged youth, particularly those who came from low-income families. As an avid reader, she was captivated by stories that highlighted the challenges facing these students and their dreams. She knew that her passion could be harnessed into action, and so began volunteering with local organizations working on educational initiatives. In 2015, Rachel founded a grassroots organization called Equal Opportunity, whose mission was to empower underprivileged youth through education and leadership development programs. The group's first initiative focused on providing free college preparatory classes for students from low-income families who were otherwise unable to afford higher education. Through her tireless efforts and relentless advocacy, Rachel secured funding from philanthropists and corporate sponsors, allowing the organization to expand its reach and offer more comprehensive services. Over time, Equal Opportunity grew into a multifaceted movement that encompassed various programs aimed at providing equal opportunities for students in all aspects of their lives. These initiatives included after-school tutoring, summer internships, mentorship, and college preparation workshops. By building strong connections with schools, businesses, and community organizations, the organization was able to create a ripple effect that extended beyond the classroom. One key aspect of Rachel's work is her emphasis on creating inclusive communities where all individuals feel valued and respected. She recognized that access to resources and opportunities often comes at the expense of marginalized groups who face systemic barriers due to factors such as race, gender, sexual orientation, or disability. By advocating for policies that address these disparities, Rachel worked tirelessly to create a more equitable society. One particular example is her campaign for Title IX, which aimed to ensure equal access to education and sports opportunities for girls of all backgrounds. In 2017, the United States Department of Education announced new guidelines allowing schools to use neutral policies that did not discriminate against gender on athletic teams. Rachel played a crucial role in shaping this policy shift by organizing protests, petitioning elected officials, and partnering with advocacy groups. Through her leadership, Equal Opportunity also launched an initiative called #UnleashYourPotential, which provided underprivileged youth with the skills, resources, and guidance they needed to succeed academically and professionally. The program offered a range of workshops on topics such as financial literacy, resume building, interviewing techniques, and networking strategies. By empowering these students through education and practical training, Rachel helped break down barriers that prevented them from reaching their full potential. One critical aspect of Equal Opportunity success was its ability to leverage the power of community organizing and advocacy. Through rallies, protests, and meetings with elected officials, Rachel cultivated a strong sense of camaraderie among her supporters and built relationships with key stakeholders at local, state, and national levels. These connections allowed the organization to amplify their message and gain traction in securing funding for new programs and initiatives. Rachel's unwavering commitment to justice was also reflected through her work on intersectional issues such as racial equity and LGBTQ+ rights. She recognized that these challenges faced by marginalized communities were interconnected and often intersected with other areas of society, including economic inequality, healthcare access, and housing stability. By advocating for policies that addressed multiple forms of discrimination and worked towards creating a more equitable system, Rachel was able to build bridges between different groups and promote social justice. In conclusion, Rachel's story serves as a powerful reminder of the transformative power of community organizing in the fight for equal opportunities for all Americans. Despite facing immense challenges and adversity, she used her voice and leadership skills to bring together individuals from diverse backgrounds, create inclusive communities, an advocate for policies that promoted equity and inclusivity. Her unwavering commitment to justice was not just a personal mission, but also an imperative for creating a more equitable society. Through the lens of equal opportunity, Rachel's story highlights how we can leverage collective strength and determination to overcome systemic barriers and create a brighter future for all Americans. One where everyone has access to equal opportunities and resources, regardless of their background or circumstances. As we celebrate Rachel's legacy, let us remember her words, "We are all New Yorkers," reminding us that anyone can be part of the solution if they work together towards a common goal. Let us honor her courage, compassion, and unwavering commitment to justice by striving for equality, fostering inclusivity, and addressing systemic barriers in our communities today and beyond. By embracing Rachel's spirit of community organizing, advocacy, and leadership, we can create a world where every individual has the opportunity to reach their full potential and make a meaningful impact on the lives of others. This is not just about making policy changes. It's also about using our collective voice and standing up for what matters most, creating a better future for all Americans. One that celebrates diversity, promotes equity, and addresses systemic barriers in every aspect of society, but also an imperative for creating a more equitable society. Rachel's story has sparked a renewed urgency to address the systemic barriers that have long been stacked against marginalized communities in New York City. Through her unwavering commitment to social justice and equal opportunity, she demonstrated how collective strength could be harnessed and transformed into powerful tools for change. As an aspiring journalist from a working-class background herself, Rachel had seen firsthand the disparities between those fortunate enough to attend top-tier universities and those who struggled to make ends meet. She knew that inequality was not just about access to resources. It was also about systemic biases and discrimination that perpetuated cycles of poverty, trauma, and exclusion. It wasn't until she stumbled upon Equal Opportunity, UNY, a nonprofit organization dedicated to eliminating the educational disparities faced by underrepresented groups in public schools across the city, that Rachel realized there was a way forward. UNY worked tirelessly to provide underserved students with access to quality education, resources, and mentorship programs, helping them overcome barriers such as poverty, family instability, and limited exposure to diverse perspectives. Rachel's work at UNY inspired her to take on the challenge of creating a more equitable society beyond just educating individuals. She knew that systemic change required not only policy reforms, but also changes in attitudes, behaviors, and practices within communities and institutions. It was this mindset that fueled her leadership efforts as she spearheaded campaigns for policies that addressed issues such as income inequality, racial profiling, and LGBTQ+ rights. As UNY's programs expanded across New York City, Rachel became a beacon of hope for those seeking justice and equality in their own lives. She recognized the importance of creating a sense of community ownership over these causes, building trust between different stakeholders, and fostering alliances with local leaders who shared her vision. One of the most significant initiatives that Rachel spearheaded was the establishment of an apprenticeship program within UNY's education network to provide students from diverse backgrounds with hands-on experience in fields such as healthcare, technology, and social work. This program not only provided job opportunities for these students, but also allowed them to gain valuable skills and perspectives that would prepare them for successful careers. Rachel believed that by giving people a chance at success through meaningful work and training, she could inspire others across the city to pursue their dreams regardless of their background or circumstances. Her commitment to providing access to opportunity was not just limited to those within EONY. She worked with local businesses, community organizations, and government agencies to create programs that encouraged underrepresented groups to participate in education, job training, and entrepreneurship. One such program Rachel spearheaded was the creation of a mentorship program for LGBTQ+ individuals seeking guidance and support. By pairing students from diverse backgrounds with mentors who shared their personal experiences as members of the community, Rachel aimed to provide them with a supportive network that could help navigate challenges related to gender identity, sexuality, and relationships. Through this program, Rachel worked tirelessly to build bridges between marginalized communities and those in positions of power, fostering empathy, understanding, and respect. She recognized that every individual has the right to be treated with dignity and respect regardless of their sexual orientation or gender identity, and she was committed to challenging stereotypes and discrimination wherever she saw it. Rachel's advocacy efforts for social justice extended beyond education and employment programs. She also worked on issues such as housing affordability, access to health care, and criminal justice reform. She recognized that these challenges were interconnected and affected everyone in the city, from low-income residents struggling with poverty to those who had been disproportionately impacted by systemic biases. To address these issues, Rachel led a coalition of community-based organizations dedicated to creating inclusive policies and systems that prioritized equity and social justice. They worked tirelessly on initiatives such as tenant protection legislation, affordable housing programs, and criminal justice reform efforts, advocating for policies that would reduce poverty, increase access to health care, and protect marginalized communities from violence and abuse. Through her unwavering commitment to equality and justice, Rachel inspired others across New York City to join her in the fight against systemic barriers. She knew that true change required not just individual actions, but collective ones, that by working together towards a common goal, we could overcome obstacles and create a world where everyone has equal opportunities. As we celebrate Rachel's legacy, let us remember her words. We are all New Yorkers, reminding us that anyone can be part of the solution if they work together towards a common goal. Let us honor her courage, compassion, and unwavering commitment to justice by striving for equality, fostering inclusivity, and addressing systemic barriers in our communities today and beyond. As we embark on this journey towards creating a more equitable society, let Rachel's story serve as an example of how collective strength can be harnessed to transform the world around us. By embracing her spirit of community organizing, advocacy, and leadership, we can create a world where every individual has the opportunity to reach their full potential and make a meaningful impact on the lives of others. This is not just about making policy changes. It's also about using our collective voice and standing up for what matters most, creating a better future for all Americans, one that celebrates diversity, promotes equity, and addresses systemic barriers in every aspect of society. We are stronger together as we work towards this shared vision, inspired by the legacy of Rachel and her unwavering commitment to justice and equality. And with Rachel's story is not just about a single individual who made significant strides for social justice in New York City. It represents a collective effort from individuals across various backgrounds, organizations, and sectors working together towards a common goal, creating a more equitable society that ensures every American has equal opportunities and resources regardless of their background or circumstances. Through her unwavering commitment to social justice and equality, Rachel showed us how collective strength could be harnessed to overcome systemic barriers and create a brighter future for all. Her activism was not just limited to education, employment, housing affordability, access to healthcare, and criminal justice reform. She also worked on issues such as tenant protection legislation, affordable housing programs, and criminal justice reform efforts. In her quest for equality, Rachel led a coalition of community-based organizations dedicated to creating inclusive policies and systems that prioritized equity and social justice. They worked tirelessly on initiatives such as tenant protection legislation, affordable housing programs, and criminal justice reform efforts, advocating for policies that would reduce poverty, increase access to health care, and protect marginalized communities from violence and abuse. Rachel's advocacy extended beyond education and employment programs. She also worked on issues such as housing affordability, access to health care, and criminal justice reform. By partnering with local businesses, community organizations, and government agencies, Rachel created programs that encouraged underrepresented groups to participate in education, job training, and entrepreneurship. Her commitment to providing access to opportunity was not just limited to those within UNY. She worked with local businesses, community organizations, and government agencies to create programs that encouraged underrepresented groups to pursue their dreams regardless of their background or circumstances. By partnering with these organizations, Rachel fostered empathy, understanding, and respect among communities and institutions, building bridges between marginalized communities and those in positions of power. As we celebrate Rachel's legacy, let us remember her words. We are all New Yorkers, reminding us that anyone can be part of the solution if they work together towards a common goal. Let us honor her courage, compassion, and unwavering commitment to justice by striving for equality, fostering inclusivity, and addressing systemic barriers in our communities today and beyond. As we embark on this journey towards creating a more equitable society, let Rachel's story serve as an example of how collective strength can be harnessed to transform the world around us. By embracing her spirit of community organizing, advocacy, and leadership, we can create a world where every individual has the opportunity to reach their full potential and make a meaningful impact on the lives of others. This is not just about making policy changes. It's also about using our collective voice and standing up for what matters most, creating a better future for all Americans, one that celebrates diversity, promotes equity, and addresses systemic barriers in every aspect of society. We are stronger together as we work towards this shared vision, inspired by the legacy of Rachel and her unwavering commitment to justice and equality. As we reflect on Rachel's life and legacy, it becomes clear that her words are not just about individual achievements, but a call to action for the collective movement towards justice. Born in New York City and raised in diverse communities, Rachel was an integral part of the city's vibrant community organizing scene. Her passion for social change led her to become one of the most influential voices advocating for racial equity and inclusivity. Rachel believed that everyone had the potential to make a difference in their own way, regardless of race or ethnicity, if they worked together towards a common goal. She understood the power dynamics at play within our society, where systemic barriers often prevented marginalized communities from accessing opportunities and experiencing equal rights. Rachel's unwavering commitment to justice was exemplified by her tireless efforts to promote diversity in education, housing, employment, healthcare, and other critical areas. One of Rachel's most notable achievements was her founding the organization, the Community Foundation for New York City, which aimed to address systemic inequalities and create a more equitable city for all residents. Through this foundation, She worked tirelessly to support initiatives that promoted equity and inclusivity at every level, from grassroots community organizing to policy advocacy. Rachel's story serves as an inspiration for individuals of all backgrounds who seek to make positive changes in their communities. Her unwavering commitment to justice was not just limited to her work within the organization. It extended beyond, inspiring others to take action towards a more inclusive and equitable society. One of Rachel's most significant contributions was through her leadership role on the board of directors for several prominent community organizations. She served as an advocate for racial equity and social justice, working with various stakeholders across the city to create change at all levels, from local governments to nonprofit groups. Through this work, she helped to shape policies that addressed systemic barriers and promoted opportunities for marginalized communities. As we celebrate Rachel's legacy, let us not forget her unwavering commitment to creating a more just world for all Americans. By embracing her spirit of community organizing, advocacy, and leadership, we can build upon the foundation she established and create a future where every individual has the opportunity to reach their full potential and make a meaningful impact on the lives of others. Rachel's story serves as an example of how collective strength can be harnessed to transform our world. By embracing her vision for unity, diversity, and inclusivity, we can use our voices and stand up for what matters most, creating a better future for all Americans. This is not just about making policy changes. It is also about using our collective voice and standing up against the forces of injustice. Through Rachel's work with the Community Foundation for New York City, she helped to create innovative programs that addressed systemic barriers and promoted opportunities for marginalized communities. These initiatives included funding community-led organizing efforts, providing mentorship and support for aspiring leaders, and advocating for policy changes at all levels, from local governments to nonprofit groups. One of Rachel's most remarkable achievements was her work with the Harlem Children's Zone, HZ, a public school system in New York City that provided high-quality education opportunities for children of color. Through her partnership with HZ, Rachel helped to establish a range of programs and initiatives aimed at promoting academic success, social-emotional well-being, and economic mobility among students from underserved communities. Rachel's work at the ZH not only had a direct impact on the lives of its students, but also inspired others across New York City. Her dedication to creating inclusive education spaces helped to break down stereotypes and promote equity in educational opportunities for all children, regardless of their race, ethnicity, or socioeconomic background. One of Rachel's most enduring legacies is her commitment to community organizing and advocacy. Through the Community Foundation for New York City, she worked tirelessly to support initiatives that promoted racial equity and social justice across the city, including efforts at local government reform, affordable housing programs, and healthcare access. In addition to her work within organizations and on boards of directors, Rachel was also a passionate advocate for intersectional issues such as gender equality, LGBTQ+ rights, and disability inclusion. She recognized the importance of addressing these challenges through policy changes that promoted diversity and inclusivity at all levels, from local governments to nonprofit groups. As we celebrate Rachel's legacy, let us remember her unwavering commitment to justice and equality. Her story serves as a reminder that anyone can be part of the solution if they work together towards a common goal. By embracing her spirit of community organizing, advocacy, and leadership, we can create a world where every individual has the opportunity to reach their full potential and make a meaningful impact on the lives of others. As Rachel's legacy continues to resonate with audiences around the country and beyond, let us honor her memory by committing ourselves to creating a more just society for all Americans. By embracing her vision for unity, diversity, and inclusivity, we can use our voices and stand up against the forces of injustice and work towards building a future where every individual has the opportunity to thrive and contribute their unique talents and perspectives. Rachel's story serves as an inspiring example of how collective strength can be harnessed to transform our world. By embracing her spirit of community organizing, advocacy, and leadership, we can use our voices and stand up for what matters most, creating a better future for all Americans. This is not just about making policy changes. It is also about using our collective voice and standing up against the forces of injustice. As we celebrate Rachel's legacy and strive to build upon her work towards justice and equality, let us remember that every individual has the power to make positive change in their own community, whether as a leader, advocate, or simply someone who seeks to learn more about issues affecting marginalized communities. By embracing diversity, promoting inclusivity, addressing systemic barriers, and working together towards a common goal, we can create a future where everyone is valued, respected, and empowered to thrive. Rachel's legacy continues to inspire us today as we continue the journey of creating a more equitable society for all Americans. Her unwavering commitment to justice and equality serves as an example of how collective strength can be harnessed to transform our world, one that celebrates diversity, promotes equity, and addresses systemic barriers in every aspect of society. Let us honor Rachel's memory by committing ourselves to this shared vision, inspired by her spirit of community organizing, advocacy, and leadership. By embracing her message of unity, diversity, and inclusivity, we can use our voices and stand up for what matters most, creating a better future for all Americans.